It is a tale that sends a shiver down the spine. Imagine you are Queen Elizabeth I, the powerful and iconic monarch of England. You have ruled for over 4 decades, seen off the Spanish Armada, and forged an entire era in your image. But now, in the twilight of your life, you are weary and unwell. As you lie in your bed at Richmond Palace, you see something truly unsettling. There, lying still and pale, is another you. A ghostly double, a perfect copy of yourself, stretched out as if already in death. This is the chilling story that has been told for centuries, a spooky legend attached to the final days of one of history's most formidable rulers. The vision is said to have deeply disturbed the aging queen. In the story, she saw this spectral version of herself looking wan and shrunken, a far cry from the powerful image she had so carefully maintained throughout her reign. This ghostly twin, or doppelgänger, was not a comfort but a terrifying omen. For Elizabeth, it was supposedly a sign that her own end was near. The story paints a picture of a queen haunted not by external enemies, but by a supernatural premonition of her own mortality. It adds a layer of gothic drama to her final moments, transforming her death from a medical event into something straight out of a ghost story. This dramatic account has captured the public imagination for a very long time. It's easy to see why. Queen Elizabeth I was a larger-than-life figure, and it seems fitting that her death should be accompanied by such an extraordinary event. The idea of seeing one's own double is a universally eerie concept, tapping into deep-seated fears about identity and fate. Did the great Gloriana, the Virgin Queen, truly have this terrifying vision? Did she confront a ghostly harbinger of her own demise in her final hours? It's a fantastic story, but to understand it, we must put on our detective hats and investigate where this tale actually comes from. The story feeds into the mystique that has always surrounded Elizabeth. She was a queen who used imagery and propaganda masterfully, presenting herself as forever youthful and strong. The tale of the doppelgänger provides a stark and tragic contrast to that public persona. It suggests that, behind the curtain of state, the queen was a vulnerable woman facing the same fears as any of her subjects. This vision of a shrunken self would have been a direct contradiction of the Gloriana image she had spent a lifetime building. The legend, therefore, offers a tantalizing glimpse into the private fears of a very public monarch, making her story all the more compelling and human. So, where did this spooky story originate? If we look for reports from Elizabeth's own time, we find nothing. None of the people who were actually with the Queen in her final days, like her Archbishop of Canterbury or her trusted courtier Robert Cecil, ever wrote about her seeing a ghostly double. Their detailed accounts of her last weeks are filled with descriptions of her melancholy, her refusal to go to bed, and her eventual loss of speech. But there is a complete and total silence on the matter of a doppelganger. This is a major red flag for any historian. If something so dramatic had happened, surely someone present would have mentioned it. The story first appears in writing many years after the Queen's death in 1603. Our main source is a memoir written by a woman named Lady Elizabeth Southwell. She had been one of Elizabeth's maids of honor, but she wrote her account much later, after converting to Catholicism and moving abroad. In her recollections, she included a whole host of sensational and supernatural events surrounding the Queen's death. The vision of the double was just one of several spooky occurrences she described. According to Lady Southwell, the Queen saw her own body, seemingly lying dead in a strange light in her chamber. We must be very careful with Lady Southwell's account. As a historian, I always have to ask, what was the writer's motive? By the time she wrote her memoir, Lady Southwell had a clear agenda. As a devout Catholic, she wanted to portray the Protestant Queen Elizabeth's death in a negative and unsettling light. Her story was filled with details that suggested the Queen's soul was in peril, such as demonic visions and a tormented end. The doppelganger story fits perfectly into this narrative. It was designed to make Elizabeth's passing seem unnatural and frightening, perhaps even as a form of divine punishment for her religious policies. Because no other contemporary source backs up this claim, historians view it with extreme skepticism. Lady Southwell's account is what we call an outlier. It's a single, biased source that contradicts all other available evidence. While it makes for a brilliant ghost story, it doesn't stand up to historical scrutiny. The people who were actually there and who kept records of the events of March 1603 make no mention of it. Their descriptions focus on the Queen's physical decline and her deep sadness, not on supernatural horrors. The evidence strongly suggests that the story of the doppelganger is a later invention, not a factual report. The idea of seeing one's own ghostly double was not unique to Queen Elizabeth I's story. In fact, it was a well-known piece of folklore across Europe, deeply woven into the cultural fabric of the time. This spectral twin was known by many names, but the most famous is the German word doppelgänger, which literally means double goer. In most traditions, seeing a doppelganger was considered a very bad sign. It was almost universally believed to be an omen of imminent death. The appearance of this ghostly other self was a warning that your time on Earth was drawing to a close, a supernatural tap on the shoulder from fate itself. This belief was particularly strong in Germanic and Celtic cultures. In Germany, tales abounded of people who met their exact lookalikes on lonely roads, only to fall ill and die shortly after. The doppelganger was seen as a spirit or wraith that haunted a person, and its appearance meant that the veil between the world of the living and the world of the dead was growing thin. Similarly, in Irish folklore, there is the concept of the fetch. This was a spectral double whose appearance also foretold death. If you saw your fetch in the morning, it was said you might have a long life, but seeing it at night meant your death was very near. These beliefs were also common in England. People in the 16th and 17th centuries lived in a world where the supernatural felt very real. Omens, portents, and ghosts were accepted parts of everyday life. A story about a queen seeing her own death predicting double would have been instantly understood by the public. It tapped into a shared cultural fear. They wouldn't have needed any explanation of what a doppelganger meant. Its appearance was a clear and terrifying message. The legend of Elizabeth's vision, therefore, fits perfectly into this pre-existing framework of belief about death omens. Given this context, it's easy to see how a story like Lady Southwell's could take root and flourish. It used a familiar folklore motif to add a layer of dark drama to a famous historical event. The doppelganger was the ultimate symbol of a life ending. Attaching this potent symbol to the death of a monarch as famous as Elizabeth made the story irresistible. It combined the grandeur of royalty with the spooky thrill of a campfire tale. The legend was powerful not because it was true, but because it resonated with what people already believed about the mysterious connection between the supernatural world and death. So, what does real history tell us about Elizabeth's final days? The contemporary accounts paint a picture that is less supernatural but deeply human and tragic. In the early months of 1603, the Queen, now approaching 70, was overcome by a profound melancholy. This was likely triggered by the death of her close friend, the Countess of Nottingham. She refused to rest, standing for hours on end, and resisting her physician's attempts to get her into bed. Her courtiers reported that she spent her time sunk in a deep sadness, often silent and staring into space for long periods. Her refusal to rest ultimately weakened her. For days, she sat upon cushions piled on the floor, unwilling or unable to move to her bed, which she seemed to fear. Her attendants pleaded with her, but the once mighty queen was resolute. She eventually lost the ability to speak, communicating only with gestures. Her godson, Sir Robert Carey, wrote that she held his hand tightly, indicating her wishes. This was not a queen seeing ghosts, but an elderly and grieving woman succumbing to what was likely a combination of infection, exhaustion, and profound depression. Her death was a slow, sad fading, not a dramatic, horror-filled spectacle. The story of the doppelgänger, therefore, seems to be a classic case of folklore becoming entwined with historical fact. The legend likely gained popularity because it offered a more exciting and mysterious explanation for the Queen's death than the sad reality. People love a good story, especially one that involves royalty and the supernatural. Lady Southwell's sensational tale provided just that, and over time, it became repeated as if it were an established fact. It's a perfect example of how myths can attach themselves to the lives of famous figures, shaping how we remember them for centuries to come. In the end, the evidence points overwhelmingly to one conclusion. Queen Elizabeth I did not see her doppelgänger. The story is a fascinating piece of folklore, a myth born from a combination of political motives and a cultural belief in death omens. The real story of her end is one of quiet sorrow and physical decline. While the ghostly tale is certainly more dramatic, the true history reveals something just as powerful: the vulnerability of even the greatest monarch in the face of mortality. The legend of the double tells us more about the fears and beliefs of the past than it does about the final moments of the Queen herself.